right, guys, what's going on? I am the one, the only, the Wookie, the sicky Wookie. That sounds horrible. We're not going to go with that. I'll figure something else out by the end of the show. But as per norm, we got the smoke show. One third of Dr. Drazray Drazcore.
Mm-hmm.
Still a terrible name. Anyways, and then we got Ewok Jr. What's up, Ewok?
Hello, Keyforge community.
No Dan today. He is on assignment again. Secret. It's top secret. I can't tell any of you about it. Stop asking.
Stuck in a container watching someone else.
We told him to put a chair in there.
Yeah, he said there's a chair, so it's no longer a confined space. Weird. So, anyways, Dan will be back with us next week. He does have some work obligations that he is going to take care of. But we'll get into the show. We're gonna keep going real quick. AB out. Oh wait, hold on. You can't be deleting none of that. APR team announced.
Take some notes, Wallies.
ABR teams announced. So the ABR teams are announced. Drazcore, tell us about the team announcements.
Yeah, so we did the draft, and I was pretty happy with my picks. I couldn't get everybody I wanted, obviously, but I'm very happy with my team. We got a lot of good folks, mix of folks who are, I guess I would say, veterans of Keyforge and are great players, and some newer folks who I'm excited about having on the team, and just sharing a great Keyforge experience with them while we crush our enemies.
Oh, don't worry. Both Sheep and I are in Team Marcon's Revenge.
I realize you guys are on the same team. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
See, that's how you draft right there. But no, I'm super excited. We have a good combination of some experience and some new people. So when people are talking about, hey, let's get some new life, this is a perfect example. ABR showcasing that it is definitely possible. People are still joining the game, and super excited to have everyone on the team.
Absolutely. So we're starting conversations, and we get into games next week or this week when you download this podcast.
Right. But Vault Keeper signups are live.
Yeah, they came out today, so shout out to Joker, and definitely go ahead and join. Vault Keeper number 2 showing up, paying out money. Again, way to go. Competitive Keyforge, and those signups, you're looking at the weekends of May 14th, 15th, and the 21st. So that's when we'll be playing, but go ahead. It is live as of April 7th.
I
got to figure out what decks I'm playing, and not wait till the last moment again like I did last time around.
You can use some of mine if you want. I don't think I'm going to be playing.
And if you don't know, day 1 is going to go ahead and be DT Archon. Day 2, which is the 15th, is Worlds Collide MM/Duo. So band 1, play the other. And you got to be above 50% between days 1 and 2. And then day 3 is pick one of those 3 decks that you're going to play.
And some of the, I guess we're going to call these the ongoing, because that's what they are.
So Kagian is still going on, which is adaptive. Keyforge as Garfield intended. That's over on Sanctimonious. So sign up now. And then, Draz, what is happening in Swindle?
Well, I'll tell you, Dr. Drazray, best team name ever, is moving on to round 3 of the playoffs. So that means we're top 4 teams.
Yeah, congrats, man. That's a huge accomplishment.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. I think now we have to go up against a bunch of teams that beat us in the regular season. So, we gotta we gotta pull it together. But I'm excited about our progress.
By we, he means you, X-Ray. X-Ray has to pull it together.
Yes. Well, 2 of the 3 of us have to pull it together. So,
All right, X-Ray and Dan.
All right, sure. We'll go with that. Or
Drazcore. Probably just X-Ray.
Mm-hmm. But I'm still having fun with my 60 SAS cap slot there. And I believe I saw that the signups for the next Swindle League, they're either open or about to be open. So I will look up for the next cast where exactly they are and what the format's going to be next season, because they change it up each time, so it keeps it fresh and interesting.
Also still running KFPL season numero 4, which is like adaptive, but more adaptive.
Being like Triad.
Oh, Triad. You're right. I'm sorry. Triad.
Yeah.
That is 100% what I meant to say.
Quadrad.
I mean, it's an interesting format to say the least. As you hear me kind of swish around I do have a cold, so I am. I'm chowing down on some halls.
Yeah. I will say that playing in it is, in my opinion, it's very, very different from Triad. Triad, you really want to go ahead and eliminate a deck and then be able to win with the other two. And here, it's just dwindling down to your final deck. So your order matters, what you're going ahead and striking matters, but it's not that you can just go ahead and pinpoint what's their weakest deck to be able to take out and beat that twice. There's quite a bit of strategy that's going into it.
I keep saying one of these days I'm going to get into one of these, and I just never have. Mainly because work eats up,
Time.
all my other time. Because I have children at home. Well, I was going to say, Ewok probably knows about this. I have children at home, and then I've got a load of children at the store that need constant supervision. So, and then we got the Nordic Keyforge League going on. Draskor?
I know their signups are up.
Is it just signups? Is that what's going on? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm not actually sure. They might still be closing out on the previous season. I'm not actually sure.
No, I can tell you, previous season is done. They did have their winner, but they have. Oh goodness, it was looking at they're just shy of 48 for the next season. So they were looking at deadline for submitting decks the 24th of April. Registration is still open, but basically at this point going forward, if you're listening to it when it's downloaded, you're going to be going ahead and put into a pool. As soon as they get to 6, then they just release that group. For Nordic Keyforge, so the Nordic Keyforge League, they are doing it different this year. They had done tiers in the past, and you basically worked your way up. This time, everyone's kind of being swished around and just put into groups of 6, and that will allow everyone a chance to be able to take down the big title.
Nice. Yeah, I remember they were debating on the NKFL podcast whether that was a good move or a not so good move. And as always, when it comes to formats, there's a variety of opinions. So,
yeah, I mean, I will actually go ahead and interject here. Hearing that podcast again, I love it. I appreciate the support. Same with Help from Future Self. We got a couple different podcasts that are still out. So shout out to the 3 of us standing around. But I do, for the Nordic League, I really like the tiered system. I agree that all of the newcomers coming in, it takes a long time to be able to work up. And so it's not necessarily a fair component for people who have, I won't put it in the bottom tier, but when you're in a lower tier to consistently be facing Spice, that's really difficult. My suggestion, honestly, would be to run all of the newbies in a tier over on the side. And then from that, you have 2 people who are going to go ahead and go up, and you basically have them entering at a higher point. You have your middles that can interject in your second season into kind of the middle tiers, and then your bottoms kind of dropping down into that lower tier. So you're not disrupting the tier system that you already have with your newbies, because that's where the real issues seem to be from what I was hearing. But again, these are some smart men and women, and I'm sure that they've already thought of that or figured it out. But if not, I would definitely suggest that as a way just to basically run a side pod with your groups of news and allowing them to then fit in after a season. So you're not waiting multiple seasons to get to the top potentially, but it also doesn't disrupt what's at the bottom for people who are playing.
Gotcha. Yeah, it sounds like an interesting sort of problem to solve. So you always tweak, you always iterate, and just keep focused on making sure that most people are having a good time. And no matter what you pick, somebody's gonna
complain,
not be their favorite, right? Which is fine, right? So yeah.
Well, we call that the Judas principle. So basically, as long as you're not getting 1 out of your 12 that's going ahead and turning on you. That's what's expected. So you're going to always hear complaints, but if it doesn't make it above that 1 out of 12 threshold,
1 out of
then,
12
you
is
know,
that the average?
Is that what it is?
yeah, it's actually seen in business for certain areas. It's also seen. It's pretty interesting to see how that kind of plays out. But they're like, if you don't hear that negative feedback more than basically your 1 out of 12,
somebody's
kind of
plotting against you.
It's very fitting here. So
yes. But getting into this week's discussion, which kind of falls into what I wanted to do not too long ago, but we're talking about one of my favorite. I think I've said that for everyone. Disruption is really one of my favorite. Like, I wish we saw more of it.
I thought stealing was what you were all about.
I love
Shadows,
stealing.
Okay.
But I also I think all the stuff that's on this, well, most of it. Some of it they've explored. But I think all this stuff needs to be 100% drilled into more, to where I know people don't like oppressive games where basically you just can't play the game. But I think the strategy to the oppression is so amazing. Just to get to that point where again, old school mono blue player where I dictate what's played and what's not to a degree, right? So then it's this game of cat and mouse, and I kind of love that whole strategy and tension at the table. I don't know, maybe just me. But Ewok, what do we got for the definition for disruption off DOK?
Sure, disruption. Disruption is an increase by effects that reduce the number of cards your opponent can play. 1 point is approximately equal to preventing your opponent from drawing 2 cards. And then there are quite a few different categories, Draskar, that you came up with. You want to go ahead and tell us what are the different sections that we're going to be looking at today?
I'll read them off. So we've got discard, maybe the most obvious one, return to hand, draw limitation, house lock, card lock, ability disruption, chains, play disruption, purge, play from opponent, top of deck, attack archives, and then we have a question mark category. Yeah. There's
only one in there right now, so
well, I'm sure we'll add more as this conversation goes on. Yeah.
I do think when I think of disruption, I definitely think of Sheep. This is definitely his style of play, and I will say, sitting across from both you and him, Wookie, this is something we see a lot at our locals. Is a lot of disruption. I think that the main piece for me with disruption is disruption with all of those different categories has a way to drastically change and impact the keyforge game that's being played. And it frankly goes ahead and changes what you think you have for your creature control, for your amber control, for every other aspect of the game. And so it has such an impact that there are decks that their disruption is going to go ahead and completely change all the other stats that are there. It doesn't show up stat-wise, but disruption, frankly, is a way to go ahead and have amber control. I simply keep you from choosing that house, and now I pretty much have that guaranteed key. So that is a really big piece to remember with disruption.
Yeah. So let's get into the first one, discard. This is the one I really feel needs to be focused on a little bit heavier. We got things like Mindfire, Subtle Maul, Mind Barb, Toxin, Subtle Auto, Subtle Chain and Chain Gang. Chain Gang's the combo piece with it. Yeah. But obviously, any card, there are lots of cards that say, I love choosing a random card from my opponent's hand to see them discard. It's not as satisfying it's not as satisfying on TCO. But very satisfying.
You wave your hand over their cards, you see their face go, and then they shuffle them up, and right.
I shuffle them up. Let me pick one. I don't know. I know some people like the dice mechanic. I wanna choose which one it is. That's me.
You don't rip that card out of their hand.
Yeah. So you guys got can be good or bad. I'm guessing what's the good and what's bad about it.
Well, you forgot a couple more that are pretty big. So
I'm sorry.
You have Punk. So Punctuated Equilibrium, Vandalize is there. The other one that I was just looking at, would you guys put Inspector in there as well?
Yeah, on a destroy trigger,
maybe.
Sure.
And Purge. Yeah, it's sort of like
it's more of a Purge. Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
But
it has aspects.
Purge a random card from your opponent's hand, right?
Right. It has that aspect of take out of your hand, which
so you're still discarding a card. You're still impacting like what my opponent can play. So.
Yeah, I mean, most of these are coming out of your opponent's hand, right? Which is good and bad, right? When you ping that card out of their hand that they desperately wanted to play, it was the key to their success that they'd been holding on to. It feels so good, right? Especially, this is a risk sometimes when you're playing a deck that has no archiving or extremely limited archiving. You're holding your key card in your hand. I almost said key piece. Like Ewok or something. When you're holding that key card in your hand.
Sometimes they are holding that key piece.
Yeah.
I can't tell you, there's some good times where you subtle chain that TMTP, and you're allowed, and I can run. I'm freed.
Yep. But then there's other times, right? There's other times where, I'm looking at my hand and I got like 4/1/1, and my opponent pings one of the ones out of my hand, and I'm like, good. Wasn't going to call that house for a while anyway. Maybe I got an opportunity to draw something I want, that sort of thing. So there are moments where a discard of 1 against you is actually not that bad for you. Especially if, right, and Ewok, you added this good thought here in terms of a good defensive card.
Oh, that's autoencoder. I think, tackled the discard aspect. I know, Wookie, you want to see a lot more discard, but autoencoder really turned the game kind of on its side with thinking about offensively using autoencoder to discard and to then go ahead and archive a card for each that was discarded. Doesn't matter.
Does DOK consider autoencoder disruption?
No. No. Defensive against.
Yeah.
So
it's the counter to it. So it's not a disruption. It's actually helping you out to become more efficient.
Sure.
Right. If you have your subtle maul and you see your opponent has an autoencoder, you're going to hesitate to use that subtle maul, right? Because you're getting something out of their hand, but you're putting something in their archives, and in the long run, they probably rather have that card in their archives than in their hand, unless you're positive they're holding on to their key card. So it's probably often
Spin the wheel.
The wrong thing to do.
Nope, spin the wheel.
Well, yeah, I guess if it's like they're getting down to like the bottom of their deck, and like you haven't seen that TMTP yet, and there's like 2 cards in their deck, and there's 6 in their hand, and you're like, you know what, like I feel like maybe they're holding it. Then you do it because maybe you get lucky and they archive something not that great.
But it makes no sense early or even mid if you don't you have a higher probability of hitting something that frankly isn't going to be game changing, and you're putting extra card, which is a card advantage, into the archives. And so Mind Barb, Subtle Maul, I think that it really, really has seeing autoencoder out has a drastic impact on eliminating this aspect of the game for discard, or at least making you really think about what you're doing.
I mean, I guess that's in that rare, really good deck running Subtle Maul, which really doesn't exist.
Frankly, there aren't too many. I did recently play a Chain Games Subtle Chain kind of deck, and out of the times that came up, there are a couple turns that they're dropping me down to 3 cards.
Nice.
So think about that ability to drop multiple cards. That has a pretty big impact. Now, I did not have autoencoder out, but that deck is essentially shut down facing many of the MM decks that you're going to go ahead and see.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So it's an interesting component. I will tell you, there were multiple times that they hit and they took off the houses that, frankly, I didn't care about. And it just allowed me to draw to my answer And I did get to it faster because they missed. And it was like, you missed my battleship. You missed my battleship. And then I put, you hit my battleship. Because they did get me once and it was real good. But that's where the discard feature really comes in.
So that's where I think they need to, like, I like the idea of the discard mechanic, but I think, like, there's been so little focus on it.
Yeah.
That, like, it's not really a viable strategy yet.
Correct. I think that what you're really seeing is subtle chain and chain gang, and then you're seeing Punk. And frankly, Punk works best having your own auto encoder that's already out. So,
yeah, I do think you said something interesting there in terms of 1 versus 2 or 3, right? Like discarding 1 card from your opponent's deck doesn't feel that, or from their hand rather, doesn't feel that exciting. And really isn't in many ways, but if you can do 2 or 3, suddenly that has a much higher chance of being impactful, right? You much greater chance if you're pinging 2 cards or 3 cards of hitting that house that they were gonna play or forcing them to change their plan. And so that's why I think like there's not a ton of them, but I remember Jupiter talking about the rare like double or triple subtle maul deck that can actually work because you got a bunch of shadows creatures. He was like, hey, it could be a lot more oppressive than you might think. Is a fun thing. Which reminds me, I then picked up a double subtle maul deck to mess around with, and then I don't think I ever did. So I'm looking at it right now. I have a double subtle maul deck. Look at this.
Yeah, I mean, like, it can be impactful, but especially when you're talking, like, artifacts, like, there's so much artifact hate nowadays. I don't think we talk about how much there is, but there's a lot of it. There's a lot of it out there.
Yeah, I mean, that's another show. I will still argue that there could be more. I think the card that still has a bigger impact, in my opinion, is Punctuated Equilibrium. So action play, each player discards their hand, then refills their hand as if it were their draw card step. And I think this fits in Drazgor with what you're talking about, in that it's not hitting 1 or 2 cards. It's your whole hand. So if you see someone stacking up, they don't have an archive, their hand manipulating, Punk really has an aspect to just get rid of all of those cards. And then on the opposite side, because of the way that Punk is worded, you get to go ahead as the active player, draw up your new cards, and play more cards from Untamed. And again, this is a card advantage, and that's one of the aspects of Keyforge where you can really go ahead and gain pieces. See how I use pieces there? You can gain an advantage in the game. Everywhere. I do think the other little tidbit about Punctuated Equilibrium, having played for KFPL, a little bit of Punk, you have to really, really, really think about where your opponent is at in their deck, what they have gone ahead and played so far. And I say that because more than once I have gone ahead and punked too early, and it frankly had them discard we'll call it their tertiary house, a house that they didn't really care about, that frankly wasn't helping them. But they had started to build up a number of cards in that house. And so looking at what cards have they played, what would I expect them to be on for a house, is an important piece when playing Punctuated. You can't just say, hey, I'm playing it now.
I mean, you can.
You can, but in a competitive environment, if you want to be successful, do take that into consideration. Because I see a lot of people who will just play Punctuated Equilibrium because they have it. And most of the time, that's the right call. But I'm telling you right now, I've been bit by it more than once because I haven't been paying as close attention. And they were really kind of stuck where they're going to have to take an off turn. But I just punctuated and got rid of those cards. So now they drew into a hand that they can now use.
Yeah, I think if you're playing against a combo deck, PE can be great because you can discard their combo, but it can also be bad because they just discard a bunch of mediocre stuff and got closer to their combo, right? So you got to feel it out a little bit, and you got to really pay attention to what your opponent's doing, what houses they're playing, that sort of thing. I think if they're not playing a combo deck, I think often, and they just got like good cards or that sort of thing, right? Often just saying, hey, I'm going to play it at a time that I can I think I'm going to draw back into a whole ton of
Untamed.
Untamed and just rock and roll, like that's maybe what I would lean into more there, or maybe I've got a combo I'm trying to get to, and hey, can I get to it quicker, right? So it's a really powerful card because there's a lot of different dynamics there, but it is definitely one of those that I should probably pay more attention to exactly where my opponent is when I'm playing it.
All right, next
what else we got
category.
here?
Return to hand. What do you got over there, Wookie?
Snudge, Hysteria. I mean, there's so many. Whispering Reliquary, Lights Out, Call of Nature. Nature's Call. I was like, Call of Nature? That's not a card.
Yeah, what the heck did I think I typed that in there.
Grasping Vine. What else did we put? I thought we had some other stuff on there too, but I mean, this is your typical bounce effects. I guess they're considered disruption. I mean, I guess it's gonna take your time for your opponent, especially if they got multiple. I mean, I don't think, did we put Hysteria on there? Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
I didn't see if we put it on there. I mean, there's been plenty of times where Dan's Hysteria'd me, and now I'm screwed. You know what I mean? Like, I've got my board kind of built up, but now I got a mitt full of nothing. Or I got a mitt full of a lot of things, but I got to play a lot to be able to redraw. Like, Hysteria is one of those cards where it can just be a bore once you get Hysteria'd. And
so you're talking Hysteria. I think Hysteria is dependent on what your opponent is playing. If you're playing against Star Alliance, where you have the play, fight, reap effects,
sure,
those play effects, being able to replay them, that's nasty. Going ahead and facing, let's call it a Sanctum board where it needs to sit, that you have to play it, and then you have to wait a whole nother turn. That is where Hysteria really has an advantage, in my opinion. There are certain decks that if you just don't have the creature control, though, Hysteria is just basically delaying it for a turn. Now, Hysteria does have an advantage against Dinos and any captured Amber. So I like that. I like how Hysteria, Nature's Call, Lights Out, that gets around basically the destroyed effects that we're seeing with our Dinos.
No, and I'm not saying you're not wrong. Like, but again, like everything we say in this game, it depends, right?
Yes.
Like there's nothing in this game that it's just like, nope, it's just this way. It's always, sorry, it depends.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, Hysteria, sure.
Hysteria is both disruption and creature control, right? Because you're messing with the board, but the disruption aspect, the reason it's got both those things is that you're not drawing additional cards, right?
Well, you're hopefully filling your opponent's hand with a bunch of critters that's going to take them multiple turns to play.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. You want to see multiple houses out. That's a much better situation than just returning one house to their hand.
Yep.
I don't know. I think the card that still stands out as absolutely phenomenal is Nature's Call. So Nature's Call, Untamed, there's a printed amber with it, action, return up to 3 creatures to their owner's hand. And the flexibility here is up to 3 creatures, so you can choose 0, 1, 2, or 3, but it is not dependent on just your opponent. So I can replay my own creatures with Untamed Burst. I can go ahead and return your dinos and take your amber. So just the flexibility, that's the sort of card that I really dig and kind of enjoy. And I think that I want to see more of in Keyforge as a whole.
More flexibility or?
Correct. More flexibility in the disruption. I want to have that choice of how many and to be able to impact my own creatures along with my opponents.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I suppose we do. I mean, that's one of the first ones that we've seen that, quote unquote, the up to. Mm-hmm. A lot of them will just be like, oh, just choose 3. And, like, you get to choose 3, and if, like, you hit 2 of yours, well, you hit 2 of yours. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's kind of like that, do as much as you can, even if it's yours.
Right.
I mean...
yeah, it's such a good card.
Coughing here, but Bounce has always been... I'm not going to die. Bounce has always been such a powerful mechanic since day one. I mean, just the ability to bounce things back to your opponent's hand that, like, maybe you don't... I can't kill this turn. Well, I'll deal with it another turn. Bounce it back to your hand. You know what I mean? Yeah, or, I mean, I remember there was one time where we were at a store championship. I don't remember the situation, but I had held a lights out, and I knew why I was holding it. And I don't remember why. I don't remember now why I was holding it, but I was holding it for a reason. And like, JR was over my back. He's like, "Why did you hold the lights out?" And I was like, "Because I was worried about this and this." And I had no way of dealing with it. And if I had to bounce it back to hand. Otherwise, it was game over.
Yep.
Do you remember
Yeah,
that? Right, because I don't. I remember having the conversation, JR,
I
but I don't
the full
remember.
story.
I don't remember what I was holding or why. I don't remember what I know there was a scenario where I was holding it because of X, Y, and Z. And if I had to take care of it, like that was my option at the current time. I could have just played it and been done, but I didn't. I don't remember why.
Well, but I think that's I don't remember the specific incident, but
Yeah.
having played more competitive Keyforge, that's the choice. Reading your opponent's Archon, being able to scan what is their main tactic, what card is going to absolutely punish you. And in this case, you knew you needed to hold the lights out in order to be able to bounce that creature that was your opponent's.
Right.
Interestingly, I was looking here because I'm like, why is Lost in the Woods not there? But
Because we forgot it.
No.
Oh.
It does not actually. It's a creature control, but it does not have disruption that's listed there. So Lost in the Woods is untamed action with an amber.
Well, it's not balanced. That's shuffle back to deck.
Correct.
Right.
So choose 2 friendly creatures and 2 enemy creatures. Shuffle each chosen creature into its owner's deck. So no, that's where I was looking. There's crossover oftentimes, but Lost in the Woods not there for disruption.
I wouldn't say Cross in the Woods is disruption. I would say that's very much creature control.
Well, but look at, I guess Lights Out is just returning to hand.
Right. So Lights Out is you're drawing 2 fewer cards before, or you have to play 2 additional cards before you can draw more cards, right?
Correct.
Whereas Lost in the Woods, you're adding 2 cards to the deck, but you're shuffling them up, and like, how much are you really slowing down their movement versus messing with the board? So I mean, if it gave a very small disruption score, I wouldn't necessarily say like that's ridiculous, but at the same time, like, what's its primary utility?
Right.
Versus Lights Out is half its power is the fact that you're really slowing your opponent down.
Oops, I hit my microphone.
I think. Well, just real quick, I think Grasping Vines is interesting because of the impact for artifacts. If you're playing an extremely heavy artifact deck, some of the sealeds lately, I've seen 5, 6 artifacts out across the table. As long as they're not filled with amber, that can actually really slow up those decks. So I can see that. I like Snudge, even though Snudge can be really slow. First turn Snudge can be problematic just because it has the flexibility to return creature, to be able to go ahead and return artifacts. And again, the flexibility of multiple types of cards.
Well, I don't think Snudge has to say an enemy creature either.
No, it can be your own. And I've actually, I love putting Snudge out and going ahead and returning my own Infernus. I Infernus, and then Snudge is already out, and I return it back to my hand and play it again. I have a MM deck that does that.
No.
Very nice.
Draw limitations. I'm actually kind of almost happy we don't see a ton of these. Because that would just, I guess maybe not so much. Succubus, 2-power creature. Streak, 2-power creature. What is Fuguru? Is he a 2-power creature too?
Succubus is 3, Streak is 2, Fuguru is 1.
Is Succubus a 3?
Yeah.
Is it? Okay, I thought it was 2 for some reason, but...
No,
probably just getting confused
with 2 with Elusive, I believe. Fuguru has poison?
Yeah, Fuguru does have poison.
Yeah, which is not super useful.
What are you talking about? That's super useful.
Fuguru is an unfathomable creature, 1 power, Aquan, poison. Your opponent refills their hand to 1 less card during their draw card step.
Yeah, I'll take the card, but I would rather have...
It's a kill spell. Granted, your opponent gets to choose
It's a slow kill spell,
right,
and you don't really want your Fuguru to die.
No, you don't want it to die, but if you want your card back, you're giving me a critter.
I guess, but they're giving you their worst critter.
That's fine. But, hey, oftentimes they're I guess it depends on what you mean by worst critter.
Whichever one they care about the least at that moment.
But that means that's 1 less reapy to kill a 1-power fish. That's just mildly irritating.
I understand, but I think You end up seeing this in DT. It's coming out right after MM, and MM has those damage pips just to be able to go, there's one and you're gone.
Yeah, that's true.
There's just too much creature control that frankly can get rid of one or two. I actually have a deck that's opened right before Illinois that ended up with 2 or 3 succubus. I think it was 3 succubus. And like at 3 damage, you have to think a little bit critically about it. Again, that's where the stacking effect, where having my hand fill 1 less is a pain. Having my hand fill 3 less can be really, really problematic.
Yeah, it's really oppressive.
Yeah, I do. These are good, right? Like, yeah, they can be easy to get rid of, but if you can protect them a little bit, they can really slow your opponent down. Right?
Well, there's a lot of taunt in. Well, maybe there's not a lot. There's a good amount of taunt.
Anyway,
in DT.
Yeah, I mean they've got the Seabringer, right? 7 power taunter, which
Omnipus.
Omnipus is rare,
every
right?
every tentacle's a taunter.
Sure, but that's rare. I mean, at common though, they've got the Seabringer, right? Which is useful. I like having a
Omnipus
Seabringer.
is not as rare as I thought he originally was. I see a lot of Omnipus decks.
Well, because they're fun to play.
Yeah, they're fun to play.
Of course, you bring them.
Yeah,
I don't know if they're amazing, but they're fun.
Yeah, I guess
it is just discarding all those cards and then grabbing those tentacles, throwing them on the board, and be like, yeah, take that. But I don't know.
I wish Omnipus just said go search your deck for tentacles as opposed to like
get all of them.
Yeah, just go get your tentacles. It'd be so much better.
I mean, it would.
I mean, well, you stand a chance of whiffing. Odds aren't forever in your favor, but with Omnipus, you could be like, all right, here we go, and then just find none.
Yeah, I mean, normally you want to have 1 or 2 in your hand, and then trigger it so you can.
Nobody's holding Omnipus. Nobody's going into that house and holding Omnipus until they have.
No, it's not worth. No. But like, if it's like, oh, should I call Unfathomable or should I call some other house? And I'm like, well, I might draw another tentacle so I can better protect my tentaclid, right? Like, depending on what my opponent has, right? So if I'm in sealed, right, I might do that because the chances of them having tons of creature control and sealed is I mean, it's definitely there, but in sealed, you gotta fight a lot more to kill stuff than in Archon, right? If you know in Archon, you know whether or not you should be trying to play into that or not, right? So by looking at your opponent's deck list. So I'm not saying go all in on that, but there's definitely like you have to sort of know, like, okay, well, what's the thing my deck is trying to do, right? And if your deck's like, hey, I'm playing sealed, I've got like a 65 DT deck, and the thing that this deck does is a big Omnipus thing, like, lean into it, like, try to make it happen. It's fun, and it's probably the right thing to do for that deck in a sealed scenario.
Sorry, I'm just reaching for more cough drops.
So what do you go for, by the way? Are you like a mint, like kind of like wintergreen, or are you like more like the cherry?
Whatever tastes the worst.
Oh, so definitely like the fake grape. I think that's
no. I don't go that bad, but like there is something to be said about like the worst tasting medicine is the best the medicine that works. You know what I mean? Like when I'm sick, the thing that I look forward to the most is that awful tasting, like, whatever medicine they're giving me.
Right. You're like, blah, but you can feel your sinuses clear up.
But, like, immediately after taking it, like, your nose falls off, or something like that. You know what I mean? So, like, that's what I go for.
Gotcha.
If your nose falls off, please contact your doctor.
Archon's Corner.
Medical professional.
Yeah, please consult a medical. We do not condone nose falling off. But I think everybody knows what I mean. Like, there is something to be said, like those old school like Robitussin. Yeah, they are the worst tasting thing in the world, but they work. I don't know what it is, but must be all the chemicals from the 90s or something. I don't know. There's just something about it. They just work, and if it works, I'm in. House lock. Let's get into house locks. This is where we're getting into like kind of the meat and potatoes. Here.
Delish.
Must choose. So we got this split into kind of 3 categories: must choose, cannot choose, penalty, and going for game. Oh, maybe we're just like adding the going for game lock victory.
Yeah,
So,
that was common. But yep, go ahead.
So, must choose, control the weak, market disc, snag. These are all creatures that say your opponent. Well, control the weak is not a creature, but these are all things that says choose a house. Your opponent must choose that as their next house. More or less, yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
right. You're controlling the weak being the most powerful one because you get that pip and you just pick something on their Archon card, right? Market disc, they have to have that creature out, and it has to survive the 2 damage.
And you get pip.
You do.
I'll read for our listening audience here. Control the weak, dis, action with Amber Pip. Play, choose a house on your opponent's identity card. Your opponent must choose that house as their active house on their next turn.
Such a strong card.
Oh my, yes.
That's like grade A, level 1, tier 1, S tier card. And then we got Market Disc, where you have to deal 2 damage to a creature. If that creature survives, your opponent must choose that house this turn.
Correct.
And then Snag, is it? I'm going to guess it's got to be a fight action.
Yeah,
5 power creature, fight action.
Yeah, so Snag is a Dis 5 power demon creature. Fight, your opponent must choose the house of the creature Snag fights as their active house on their next turn.
There you
go.
Which is like, I do have one or 2 decks that can actually make decent use of Snag. I think he's uncommon, right? So having multiples of him or having ways to ward or like protection, like sometimes could be useful, but he's a little tough to use effectively, right? Your opponent can often enough play around him, either kill him before he can fight, or just not play elusive, or have big taunters out or something. So you can't get to their little stuff. Yeah,
we're gonna go ahead and talk about that elusive. Be thoughtful when playing your elusive creatures. I've had more individuals. I have a Snag deck that it's more fun, so it's not anything competitive. But I've had a lot of people throw creatures out that, frankly, they just don't need to be out. They're not protecting them with taunt. And with the elusive, Snag can go ahead and really turn that game where I was losing with this deck because it's not good into I just took the win because of Snag. I'm forcing you back into it.
Every turn.
There are those off chances, right? Or those unusual situations where, you could just use a turn over turn, and suddenly you're potentially locking them right there.
What I will tell you is there are definitely new people into this game. Because the amount of people that, like... There are some times where, obviously reading the card will tell you what the card does, but they think because it's elusive that the creatures don't actually fight. And it's like, no, they fight. There's no damage is dealt. So Snag just you'll be calling him daddy for a while, and he's gonna ruin your life. Okay, that's pretty much is it. But yeah, I think Snag doesn't get. He might not get the. He's uncommon, so you don't see him a ton. Maybe that's why he doesn't get the recognition he deserves. But I think both Market Disc and Control the Weak are common.
Yeah. Much easier to play around as well.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, and those are both actions where, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen, where Snag, you don't really get the option. Or I shouldn't say that. You see them coming. Right? So
I think this is one of the most powerful components. House Lock for Disruption is the hallmark of Disruption. Playing multiple Control the Weak, especially being able to cycle them back, it is brutal to play against, and you don't have a choice.
Control the Weak Screaming Cave decks, yum.
Yeah, I will tell you. I will tell you that I have faced more Control the Weak Screaming cave decks. If you bring that in KFBL or you just face me, you are likely to go ahead and open with Screaming Cave and multiple Control the Weeks and just be able to continue to cycle them. And that is GG, good game. But it's just, I can see why it's frustrating for people to play against. But it's amazing because you're not even giving a choice of here's 2 other houses to choose between. This is where you're going. You have one solid lock. Like, I can only play this house
until you lose.
Yep,
correct.
Pretty much.
Correct. Speaking of losing, house lock with you cannot choose. Yep. So, what do we got for some good fun over there?
Is this the only 2 we got? It's just Restring Guntus and Tesmo?
Well, I added 2 below it.
Oh, did you?
Snag's Mirror.
Oh, Snag's Mirror and
the
Uberfult device.
Yeah. Uber Fruit.
Dude, it's the Uber something. It's Uber Lift. I don't remember. I just played a deck with the Ubert Flaggenflugen device, and that is ridiculously fun. That card gave me more joy than I think I've had in Keyforge for a long time.
Really? Interesting.
Oh, I had so much fun with it. So much fun with it. Well, number one, I think I played against you even. All my games turn 1, I pulled that, and I'm like, yep, doesn't even matter what the rest of the hand is, keeping it. Doesn't even matter because this is just gonna get. Now, in reality, like 2 out of those 4 games, I absolutely should have mulliganed and gone for better. However, it is. I mean, it's just. I don't know. I just think that idea is fun. Where I go, yep. If you can't come back to a house once you've chosen it, and it seems so powerful. Like, doesn't it? Doesn't just the idea of it seem powerful, even though it's probably not as powerful as you think?
Give me a sec here, because the Oof Belt device is
the Oof Belt. That's what it is.
Yeah, so it's an artifact from Star Alliance. It has an Amber Pip printed. It's an item. Each player cannot choose the same active house they chose on their previous turn.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So I think it really depends, because some decks enjoy, if you will, or it's common to keep changing what house you're in, to just keep moving through your deck and whatnot, whereas some decks really want to just play Star Alliance over and over or something, right? Which, by the way, it's interesting that this is Star Alliance cards, since like Star Alliance is, one of those houses you're more likely to want to play over and over. I guess so like how useful it's going to be against your opponent, I think, is going to vary greatly. So, hey, if you've got an opponent who really has one main house, they want to establish a board and just keep calling it's definitely going to disrupt that. But if if you're like, oh, you know what, no big deal, I'll just call a different house next time, then it may not be that disruptive to them, and it may be no more disruptive to them than it is to you. Because
it is symmetrical, so you are also not allowed to do this.
Well, so this is what's interesting. We've saw the evolution of Control the Weak going to Mark of Dis. Okay, you have to inflict the damage onto the creature in order for it to be able to have a disruption effect. Thinking about the progression from Snag's Mirror after a Dis Pip item artifact, after a player chooses an active house, their opponent cannot choose the same house as their active house on their next turn. Do you guys like that progression from Snag's Mirror to Oof Belt device, or which one would you rather play
Snag's
or play
Mirror
against?
is rare, isn't it?
They both are.
They're both rare.
Are
so
they both
Snag's
rare?
Mirror, to me, is a discard 99% of the time. Like, I do not like Snag's Mirror, because I feel like there's just as much opportunity for me or for my opponent to, at the key moment, stop me from doing what I want to do, as there is for me to stop what they want to do. And yeah, kind of, sort of, I got the first shot because I played it, and now you can't play Dis. But at the same time, I had to choose Dis to play this. So, like, you're sort of getting the first opportunity to choose. I actually had this card in Master of Knockburning, the Exu Voltor deck that I played sealed deck, and I discarded it every game in which I shared any houses with my opponent. Because I just did not. I was not going to let that be the reason I lost the game. Maybe that was too defensive, but I don't know. I've played it before, and I just have had bad experiences, so I generally don't touch it.
I think that the Oofbelt device is a lot more forgiving in its symmetrical. And seeing it in DT after MM, it's interesting. So each player cannot choose the same active house they chose on their previous turn. So you're not basically blocking your opponent, but you're restricted from what you yourself made as a choice. Mm-hmm. So that flexibility to go from house to house, as you're talking, you want to have a deck that's going to move through different houses. I think that there are some decks that also will build up cards. Like this house has all of my actions, or a very high percentage. And this house has all of the creatures, which those are the type of decks that I enjoy, is that I have one house that is more creature focused and one that's more, it's the old bouncing death quirk. Here's my main house, my supporting house, and then my efficiency house to be able to move. So Oofbelt does go ahead and really disrupt those types of decks. But it was just interesting to be able to see the difference in the progression between the two cards.
I did, when playing that game, have the opportunity to hear someone go, I choose this house, and pass the turn. Say, it did happen. Where they just did not have any cards of that house and couldn't play. They had a mitt full of one house, which is rare. It doesn't happen all too often. But, they just had to pass. It was what it was.
Yeah, I mean, it can happen, right? But they did. That's the house they just called. So, what's the chances
What's the chances of them drawing 6 more cards into that house?
The house
pretty rare, but
yeah,
it happened. Yeah. It was fun. But I mean, I do, again, this whole house lock thing. I want more of it. Where a lot of people are like, I want less of it. I want more.
Yeah.
Of this.
But I think that a lot of people had bad interactions because of Restring Guntas. So because it's in the cannot choose, let's talk about Tesmo and Restring Guntas. That is, when we talk lock, Restring Guntas is what's there. You saw it at Vault Tour. You see it in a multiple, in George's 2-time in Gasnex. It's 2-time Vault Tour winning deck. And it does have a way to be able to shut down games.
Yeah. If you can get them out, protect them, call the house that they've got a ton of in their hand, and suddenly they can't do anything with 4 of the cards in their hand, and now you got your board covered, and suddenly they're desperately trying to play creatures.
Let's be fair about this too. The Restring Guntas lock in that deck takes effort, and a lot of it.
Sure.
Right? So if you've never played, if you've never played against a deck that wants to lock you, right? Or if you've never played one, there's a really good chance you screw it up. Really, really good. Because I remember testing this deck with Eric for Indy? No. Collinsville. So basically, Eric was top 8, and his fear was gasoline. It took me 4 or 5 games to figure out how to get the Rusty Lock in with the deck. But once I figured it out, once you know it, you know it. But once I figured, that's where all the true tests came, was once I figured out how to get that lock going.
Yep.
Because it is a little tough, because it's not just like I play Rustling Guntas and win the game, which I think a lot of people think it is. It's not. You have to be very diligent about what you're doing with the Restring Guntas.
And understand, so here's the card. It's a Dis, 1 power creature, demon, play, choose a house. Your opponent cannot choose that house as their active house until Restring Guntas leaves play. But because of the 1 power, that's why it is you have to have creature control, you have to have removal, you have to have a card that's out, and it is not just I play and win, as you were talking about.
Right. And not only that, even after you're done playing it, there's still a chance. there's still a chance that they have that 1 damage or something. You know what I mean? It's rare, but there's that shot. I mean, it's only a 1 power creature. It doesn't take a ton to kill it.
Right. I mean, there's also, that's part of the thing with Restiguntus. Like, you're actually forcing your opponent. I don't know if forcing is the right word, but a good opponent may feel like they're forced to be very careful with how they're playing. Yeah, like, I got to keep at least 2 houses in my hand at all times. I got to hold on to this Twin Bolt.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I shouldn't play the Twin Bolt right now because I might need to come back to Logos and play this Twin Bolt, right? Like, that sort of thing. The threat of Restringuntus out there can really
look at this
and disrupt your opponent's play.
Yeah, no, it is definitely a disruption. It is also a great amber control in order to keep someone like, here's I'm going to key, and you're not going to be able to call this house because you don't have amber control there. I think here's the big piece. Archon, you see Restringuntus there. You know it's 1 out of 36 cards, okay? You're the second player, and you open up all 6 cards are of 1 house. That is a phenomenal opening hand, and you are super excited anytime that you're playing. And if you don't have creature removal, if you don't have instant damage, you cannot go ahead and hold that hand. That is where it has an impact. Correct.
Turn 1? Roll the dice. No, roll the dice. 100% roll the dice.
Yeah, ask Eric how that worked.
I mean,
he didn't get turn 1 locked.
He didn't get turn 1 locked, but I think that Restringuntus actually has more power late game than early on, and I will state that. Yeah, it has much more power. But the chance that you can be locked, and I've seen people locked out on turn 1 because of the right call, or you're only able to play 1 card and you don't draw into it, and it's like, well, there you go.
I mean, that's for them to go, okay, turn 1, Restringuntus, and call the right house. You better go buy a lot. You better go buy a lottery ticket, like right now. If not only do you nail the house that they drew 6 cards of,
it is extremely
and got to turn 1.
I will tell you, you have to play differently when you're playing Restringuntus.
I'm not saying you don't, but I'm turn 1. I'm rolling the dice, man. If you got me, you got me.
Yeah, like, I think so. I will definitely pitch a hand that I would have otherwise kept because, maybe it's a 3-2-1, but I don't have like a great way. Like my opponent knows that most of the ways I have to take out Restringuntus are in House X, right? And if he calls House X, like, I'm in trouble, and I just have to play out onesie-twosie cards. Like, I will pitch that hand where maybe that 3-2-1 is otherwise good. That I'll definitely do. But if I've got 6 of the same house, right, and I'm like, chances are he's not going to turn 1 play it, and I can play 6 cards and then draw into a whole bunch of new cards to then potentially deal with have a better chance of getting the cards that are going to deal with Resty. Like I'm probably going to do that.
Probably going to do it.
And you're going to feel real bad when he drops it.
There's
a lot of things there, but
you will, but at the same time, like, I made that choice. Like, I accepted that risk. And so, like, if it happens, then I'm like, yeah, well, I did this to myself, and I risk accepted it, right?
If it's a best of 3, if it's a best of 3, I have no problem going ahead and doing that. If it is here is best of 1, which is frankly what we've seen for Keyforge, and that comes down to time. I understand.
You're going to tell me you don't take the chance?
I think there's a high probability that you're going to drop those 6 cards, and be in a great position for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
So it's going to be very, very tempting. But
all right, let me ask you this: you're playing a Rusty deck, right? You're going up against a Rusty deck. You have an OTK in your hand, but you're going second. What do?
If I have an OTK,
the OTK is all in 1 house. Well, just for argument's sake,
do I have damage to be able to go ahead and deal with it?
It's all in it. The OTK is all of 1 house.
You got triple Battlefleet key abduction with some
So there's no damage.
Orbital bombardment.
but he's gonna rust. But
you do. You have the orbital bombardment, right? And you got, I don't know, what else are we throwing in there, Wookie? I don't know.
I mean, you can have the damage, but remember, your hand is all of one house.
Yeah, the short answer is yes. Probably most likely, I will be willing to play both of those because that's where I have to be able to push. But it's gonna really, really hurt when he drops it.
Sure.
Even going ahead and having it
a pessimist here.
You hit the nuts, and so he's also got the hit nuts to stop you, right? So yeah.
Yeah, even going ahead and seeing that there's a shadow self or double shadow self, as I'm seeing with the KFPL, and that's where it becomes problematic. Of like, okay, you have shadow self or two shadow selves, and the ability right after to drop that Restringuntis.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
play it, get it out, and move those cards.
That's why you need a Fangtooth Cavern.
Yeah. So, no, I think Restringuntis is very, very interesting. I do think there's a lot of power that comes from it being played mid to late game. And timing is very, very important with it. I think that it is a high-skilled card, whether people realize it or not. And oftentimes people just think, hey, I got Restringuntis, I'll just play it out. No, there's a lot else that goes into forming, being able to have the follow-up to it, being able to play it at the right time.
Have the
calling the right house.
Do we want to make this a two-parter?
We're already pretty long.
Well, we're already at over an hour, and we're only halfway through the list.
We could.
I'm all about getting through how we can get through the house lock stuff, and then kind of go through the rest of it.
Sure.
Next week,
we get a two-part.
Yeah, we'll just do a two-parter because disruption. I feel like there's so much in disruption too. And again, I love it, so I'll 100% keep talking about it because I want to see more of this. Like, I so want FFG to be like, okay, we're gonna have the discard house, which like I felt like Dis was headed in that direction, and then just never went anywhere.
Kind of.
Then it like switched houses. It was a Dis thing, and then it's like, oh no, now it's a Shadows thing, because like they didn't want to print as much steel because they're like, shit, this is a very powerful. We need to switch all of this. And
it could be a Shadows thing. Yeah.
I do think. Go ahead.
Good. I was just gonna say, I do think there's like your houses will sometimes have their primary thing and their secondary thing, right?
Sure.
And so steel's still the primary, but secondary is some discard situation.
But let's get into. Finish your thought. Let's get into penalty.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna say, I did think it was. The fact that it was basically the same card between Mind Barb and Subtle Chain was a little interesting. Like, they could have tweaked it a little bit, but
Well, they kind of did. I mean, they gave it the combo piece with Chain Gang.
They did,
where you could get it back. I guess
that does.
So they made it better. Great, thanks.
Yeah. I mean, because Subtle Maul or Subtle.
I mean, it's not like they made Counter Spell better.
Mind Barb.
You know what I mean? Like, it's a random card.
Yeah.
Like, if they were like, oh, well, let's give you 2 pips for playing Control the Weak, and we'll make the card better. That would have been a totally different story. But let's get into penalty.
Should we real quickly just mention double Tesmal rocket boots?
Yeah, go ahead.
Really quickly. Yeah, so that's like one of those combos that is fun to open. It's probably not going to win you that many games because you got to pull it off, but basically Tesmal Reap, right? I'm not looking at the card like Ewok is, but hey, you reap with it, and basically you select a house your opponent can't play. You cannot have more than 2 Tesmals in a deck, so in theory, you shouldn't be able to prevent them from calling any house at all, aka lose the game. But if you have a Rocket Boots, you can reap with one of them twice, lock them out of all the houses in their deck, and suddenly you won the game that way. I do have one of these decks.
Ooh.
It is like really, really hard to actually make it happen, but sometimes it's fun just to mess around and try to make it happen.
Well, Tesmal is so squishy.
Yeah, so Tesmal is 2-power Dis, creature imp with elusive, reap, choose a house. Your opponent cannot choose that house as their active house on their next turn. So that's where the squishiness comes in.
So squishy. But let's get into some creatures that have penalties for you choosing a house. Illusions of Grandeur, that's an action card, is it not?
Yeah, so it's an unfathomable action card with the Amber Pip. Play, choose a house on your opponent's identity card. If your opponent does not choose that house as their active house on their next turn, gain 3 Amber.
That card's
It's a
fun.
DP card.
It's fun. It's a lot of fun.
I like to play on words too. The illusions instead of illusions of grandeur.
Right.
Yes.
This was actually you know how at Keyforge Live we got to have our name tags made out of Keyforge cards? I picked Illusions of Grandeur as my card because I don't know, it was punny and I don't know, I like it.
Drax always trying to be the smartest guy in the room. Anyway,
I can see the progression. It seems a major step down versus Control the Weak or even Mark of Dis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's Amber generation, but honestly, there's times that I want you to gain the Amber on your turn and then be able to go ahead, to be able to respond to it with something else. So I'm not a huge fan of illusions.
But remember, I gained that 3 Ember on your turn.
Yep. I think it's good. There's
I get up to 4 Ember, play illusions, say you cannot play. I choose Shadows. If you play Shadows next turn, I get 3 Ember. And you're like, crap, totally ruined my game plan, but I gotta choose Shadows.
Play Shadows.
Gotta play Shadows, and then you give me 3 Ember. Now I'm threatening key. I declare check on your turn.
I see where the disruption is. I just don't see it as strong, and maybe that's just because of the other cards that are there.
It's not as strong. No way. But it's still a good card. I think it's still pretty good.
I agree.
It's nowhere near as good as a Control the Weak or a Mark of Dis.
Yeah.
However, it's it's because I'm not forcing you to not play that house, but at the same time, I'm like, well, you can totally play that house. It's fine, but if you do, I'm taking your lunch money.
Mm-hmm. I like it from a design perspective too, just from it's giving your opponent an interesting choice. I don't know, feels like a juicy, interesting decision.
Yeah, I think that's why I like it too. It's probably not as good as I think it is, but I like it because it's fun.
I'd take a bunch of them in my deck.
I mean, I'd take a bunch. Could you imagine just being like, any house you call, give me 3 Ember?
Well, it is uncommon. So
I do have a double Illusions of Grandeur, so you can guarantee at least 3.
There you go.
So, yeah.
I dig it. And then the other one we put in this was Snaglet.
So 2-power disc creature that's an imp with elusive action. Choose a house. If your opponent chooses that house as their active house, their next turn, steal 2.
Doesn't seem as cool.
It's hard to get off.
Yeah, it's also a rare, so you see less of them.
Well, you see a lot less of it, true. But not only that, if you're like, I was steal 2 of nothing. Here you go.
Oh, correct. So you got steal 2 of nothing. You have
or even if you have 1.
2. Yeah.
Yeah, even if you have 1, you're like, here you go. I'm going to gain 7 this turn, but here's your 1.
Mm-hmm.
So not as good.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I want, because it's rare. Sometimes I do wonder if it would have been more interesting if Snag was common and Snaglet was uncommon. Maybe you have to limit Snaglet. I don't know. If you have multiple Snaglets, you start to get a little crazy. But
and if you have Snag too, so now does Snag?
Right.
Wait, hold on, I forget. Snag prevents you from calling a house, right?
No, forces you to choose.
Forces
the house
you to go into that house. That's right. Okay.
Yep, of the creature you fight. So
I mean, that could get a little out of hand, don't you think?
Yeah.
A couple Snaglets with a Snag. You're just you're going into Untamed, and by the way, if you get Untamed, I'm stealing 4.
Yep.
Or 2.
Yep.
I got a couple of them.
2.
Yeah.
But I do have a double Snaglet deck, and it's real fun. If you can start doing that, it's great. But it's a lot of setup, right? So
and ain't nobody got that kind of time.
Right. Often your opponent is going to be able to handle it, but every 3rd or 4th game you're able to do it, and feels really fun.
And then you got to tell that person that just picked up the deck that day, this deck normally doesn't work that well.
Right. I do. On occasion I do feel like I have to sort of explain. You know. It worked really well, but you should.
Normally doesn't do that. Just so you know, it normally doesn't fire all cylinders.
Right.
But-
right.
All right, so week 2, we'll be going through even more disruption. I love disruption. Again, I think it's the thing that they should focus more on. Call me crazy, but I'd love it. Maybe with a new house. New house coming? Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
It could be. I don't know. Traders was it
I doubt it.
compact
I doubt it.
of Equidon or whatever.
Compacts of Equidon.
It's
Is that
a
what it
pretty
was?
Terrible name.
Yes.
Yeah.
No,
But it doesn't sound like a disruptive house.
doesn't sound like it.
Yeah, maybe some stealing, maybe some,
Maybe
I
like
give
the
you
new
a creature,
Mars
you give me a
house?
creature. Like that would be cool, right? Like, here's my piece of junk creature. Give me your best creature. Like something like that would be fun. I don't know.
Here's
So hint, FFG. We'd love to be able to get a preview card, and I know the Keyforge community as a whole would love to be able to see one.
anything. Well, word on the street is okay. I don't mean to go on a totally different topic. Word on the street is, and I don't know if you guys heard this. Playtesting has begun.
Mhm.
The playtesters have decks in pause. Not that they can talk about it, but it is a thing that
Sure.
exists. So sooner rather
Fingers
than
crossed.
later, hopefully, fingers crossed, right?
Fingers crossed.
I mean, I know I'm ready for another new set because I still haven't picked what game I'm going into next, and I'm still here. I keep coming back to Keyforge.
So good.
Great.
Oh, good.
It's like that one fallback girl you always kind of keep around. You know what I mean? There's Keyforge. Here's Keyforge, still around, still kicking.
We'll be your fallback girl, Wookie. We'll do that
No,
for you.
it's not
We'll
even
do that
about
solid.
that. It's not even about that. It's not even about that. I just need some fresh blood. That's all it is. Because every new set
Yeah.
I get excited for. I'm
Mhm.
like, ooh, fresh blood. Something new to play. I'm that guy who always wants the newest, the latest, and the greatest. I don't want to go back. Like, even though I still love Coda, I'm not rocking, like, you'll never see me rocking a Coda deck.
I got a bunch of sealed Coda over here.
You have a bunch of sealed Coda? Why?
I got sealed Coda and I got sealed DT over here.
A sealed DT I can understand because we're still running sealed events.
Uh-huh.
Like, you're not going to crack a sealed Coda and then go, like,
Yeah,
you think?
I have. For
Have
sure.
you? How's it done?
Yeah.
Does it still hold?
Mixed.
Yeah,
Depends,
it's
right?
got results.
It's Coda. Like, there's definitely some good ones, and there's definitely some,
Bad
some
ones.
okay ones, So,
Yeah.
if I sort by date added, let's see. Let me
Lord.
look for most recent Coda deck that I opened. So I opened.
I just couldn't. I don't know if I could crack a Coda deck right now and feel okay with myself.
I mean, there's definitely fun stuff out there for sure.
All right. But either way,
yeah.
we'll go. You find that out and bring us that info next week.
Mm-hmm.
I'm interested because, Dan just buys anything he finds cheap, he just buys. So I'm not nearly as surprised when Dan's like, yeah, I've opened Coda. Because whatever he finds, whatever Dan's philosophy on Keyforge is, what I finds, I buys. And what I buys, I keeps.
Unless he puts it through the shredder.
Right. Unless he shreds it. And it's that bad. But final thoughts. Let's start with Mr. Ewok. What's up, Jer?
As you guys are talking about cracking open more decks, I have decks here, but enjoy what you have. I am desperately looking forward to next sets, but also just getting into some in real life play. So if you have that option, stay safe, have some fun, play. And if you can't, join us online. There's a very, very active community that you can see from all the events happening from the start, from ABR, Vault Keeper, Kagi, Swindle. I mean, North Keyforge League. There's just a ton, and there's even more. Support the content creators who are out there and play Keyforge, whether that's in person or online.
Speaking of supporting your content creators, you can support Archon's Corner by becoming a patron. Patrons always listen for free over at patreon.com. No ads. Ads are always removed for you guys. Also, we sell t-shirts, I guess. That's the thing we still do. So t-shirts are still up. And in fact, Keyforge Live t-shirts are still up if you wanted to grab one of those still. What else do we do? Do we do any of the other things?
We probably do some of them.
Probably. I don't even know what we do. I am in the midst of designing some awesome deck boxes, so keep on the lookout for those. I figured out. I posted them in the Discord a while ago, and basically Star Wars used to have these awesome, I don't know if I want to call them clamshells, but like it was a top, a top and a bottom. And then like they had like the character's face on like a 45-degree angle, but it was like all one color. They were really, really cool. But the players committee found a way to replicate them and make them in boxes for like tournament prizes. And I thought that would be kind of cool to do. Maybe I can talk to some people. I might have some connections in the art industry who've done keyforge art to do some keyforge-esque art and kind of, put that on there. I don't know. We'll figure that out, but I thought that was pretty cool. Drascore, do we do your final thoughts?
No. What?
Have at it, sir. I stole your thunder.
Yeah, what are my final thoughts? I just play Keyforge. I've been having a lot of fun just chatting with my the folks that drafted in ABR and just talking about decks and talking about different formats, and we've got veteran guys helping out folks who are newer to the game. Just this is what you think about for adaptive, and they're getting excited. Like, I've never done adaptive. And we're like, yeah, this weekend we're gonna get some games in. We're gonna practice. You're gonna be good, and it's just a fun game. So
I remember my first tournament, my first big tournament. Me and JR hung out at a McDonald's for like 4.5 hours.
The McDonald's?
Yeah, because I think our friendly local gaming store was closed for some reason.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we hung out at McDonald's and played for like 4 hours to play test.
Nice.
Leading up into one of the vault tours. But keep playing. Obviously, we play here on the channel. Or on the Discord, I should say, not on the channel, but on the Discord every Sunday. I gotta get this right. Every Sunday, Tuesday, Wednesday, correct?
Yes.
Sunday is Archon. Tuesday and Wednesday are sealed. One is with Lokar for Pink Bunny Games, where you can win bunny points, bunny tails. I don't know. You scoop Peter Rabbit and bop him on the head. And then he's got his own prize wall that he does things on. And then our sealed is on Tuesday night, where we don't have any fun prizes.
Nope.
You just get to
just get to crush.
Actually, it is fun to go ahead and to talk and to be able to just enjoy the group that's there.
Your prize is listening to Dan go, my space dollars.
Or
yeah, bro. That's really why I show up. Is to just listen to Dan complain about people stealing his space dollars. It's well worth the price of admission.
I agree.
Yeah, and if anybody tells you otherwise, they're wrong. It's okay to be wrong. So that's going to do it. We'll see you again next week for Disruption Part 2. Take it easy.
Happy Forged.